You sit on the edge of the bunk and count the rivets in the door. 16. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before that. You've been on death row at the Harlan Correctional Center for 11 years now, all because you put 3 bullets in a man outside a gas station in what feels like someone else's lifetime. The sentence came down clean. No appeals left worth filing. You stop being scared of the room around year 4. The cell is 6 feet by 10. Smooth poured concrete on 3 sides, a reinforced steel door on the 4th with a food slot at knee height, and a narrow window of wire glass at eye level. The floor is the color of old chalk. The mattress is 3 inches of compressed foam on a welded steel frame. There's a single fluorescent tube behind a scuffed polycarbonate cover that hums at a frequency you can't name, but your skull learned a long time ago. These are the facts of your life. You know them the way you know your own heartbeat. Week 1, you counted everything. The ceiling tiles, the rivets, the hours, the minutes. You paced the cell in the afternoons, heel to toe, 6 paces one way and 6 paces back. You pressed your face to the wire glass in the door and watched the corridor like something was about to happen out there. Nothing happened. A guard named Reyes walked the tier every 30 minutes with a clipboard and didn't look up. You listened to the man 2 doors down argue with himself in a language you didn't understand. You ate every meal because you were hungry and because eating was something to do. You slept in chunks of 2 or 3 hours and woke up disoriented, reaching for things that weren't there. The first adjustment came around month 3. You stopped pacing, not because you decided to, because one afternoon you stood up to pace and then just didn't. You sat back down and watched the fluorescent tube flicker twice and then steady out. That was the afternoon. That was the whole afternoon. You started doing push-ups in the morning, 30, then 60, then 120. Not for fitness, because the push-ups had a number attached to them and the number gave the morning an endpoint. The guards slid breakfast through the food slot at 6 a.m. A paper tray, plastic spoon, powdered eggs, and a square of white bread, and a styrofoam cup of something that might be coffee. You ate it on the floor with your back against the bunk. You didn't have an opinion about the eggs. You stopped having opinions about the eggs around month 2. By month 6, you had a routine that ran like track on a wheel. Wake at 5:45 before the slot opened. Push-ups, breakfast off the floor. Walk the cell once in each direction, not to count, just to move your legs. Read whatever was on the cart when the library trolley came on Thursdays, which was a guard named Yunt, rolling a metal cart with 12 books and a selection system that appeared to be random. You read everything: legal thrillers, a book about birdwatching, 3 westerns, a memoir by someone who ran marathons. The words didn't matter much. The words were just movement for your eyes. At some point in year 1, you stopped saying good morning to Reyes. You can't place when exactly. It wasn't a decision. One morning you just didn't say it, and he didn't notice, and the world kept going. After that, the daily count at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. was just a noise. A beam of light through the wire glass, the creak of boots on concrete, the scratch of a pen on a clipboard. You learned to sleep through the 3 p.m. count if you'd been lying down. You learned to answer the body check without waking up fully, just lifting a hand so they could see you were still producing evidence of being alive. Year 2, you lost the kitchen, not your cell. Your kitchen at home, the one with the yellow curtain above the sink and the drawer that stuck. You tried to picture it one afternoon and got the shape of the room but not the details. The drawer stuck on the left or the right. The curtain had a pattern, or was it plain? You sat on the bunk and pushed at the memory like a man pushing on a bruise to see if it still hurt. It still hurt. But the details were gone, and the hurt was the only proof something had been there. You wrote a letter to your sister around year 3. The facility allowed 2 outgoing letters a week on approved paper, blue ink only, opened and read before they left the building. You wrote that you were fine. You wrote that the food was acceptable. You wrote that you were reading a lot. All of it was true, and none of it was anything. She wrote back twice that year, and then the letters stopped coming, and you didn't write again for 8 months. Year 3 brought a new sound. The man 4 doors down, a person you knew only as a high-pitched voice and the rhythm of his footsteps, began screaming at 3 a.m., not every night, 3 or 4 nights a week, a sustained sound with no particular shape to it, not words, just volume. The first time it happened, you sat up on the bunk and stared at the door. By the 4th time, you registered it and went back to sleep. By month 3 of it, you stopped fully waking up. The sound entered your sleep and left it without touching the surface. You wonder sometimes what it would take to scare you now, not a rhetorical question. You genuinely don't know the answer. In year 5, a new guard started the tier. Younger than Reyes, moved faster, asked you once if you needed anything when he did the count. You said no. He asked again the next week. You said no again. After a month, he stopped asking and moved like the others, clipboard up, eyes forward, boots on concrete. You watched this happen from the bunk with something close to professional interest. 6 weeks, and he learned the walk. Give him another 6 months, and he'd learn not to look through the glass. The hardest thing is not dramatic. That's worth saying out loud, even if only to yourself in a cell the size of a parking space. The hardest thing is not the sentence or the walls or the food slot or the screaming at 3 a.m. The hardest thing is that your brain keeps adapting. It keeps making itself comfortable. It keeps editing things out. The hum of the fluorescent tube is gone from your conscious hearing and has been since about month 8. The smell of the corridor, disinfectant, and something under it went around year 2. The weight of the days, the specific grinding weight of knowing you have nowhere to be and no hour that is different from the last. That was the last thing to go quiet, and it went quiet sometime in year 7, and you sat on the bunk one afternoon and realized you hadn't thought about it in days. You're not at peace. That would be the wrong word. You're at something else, at a distance from yourself that you can't close and stop trying to close. You do your push-ups. You eat off the floor. You read the birdwatching book again because Yunt brought it back on the cart and it's better than the westerns. You count the rivets, 16. You wait for the 3 p.m. count. The man 4 doors down is quiet tonight. You notice that briefly. Then you stop noticing it too.